Hi and welcome to Sparkle Tart.
Hello gorgeous people. A lovely friend of mine, Tash, has asked me to create a special video using the Planners Anonymous January kit with a beautiful relaxation theme. Now you saw me do the kit unboxing and now I'm just going to use the elements from the kit to quickly decorate this week in my little Hobonichi planner. Now what I'm about to talk about you can use for larger planners as well, so these techniques translate. Now you could easily use these same ideas for scrapbooking. It's really just basic composition. So let's get started. Now the first thing I'm going to do is protect my little journal here so I don't get ink all over everything, and I've got some little protective plastic mats here. And of course I'm going to start with some of the paper from Planners Anonymous. Now it's got some really pretty, do I want a white edge? You know, I think I want a white edge. Okay, so I just need to tear that the other way. So let me start here. Now I'm just trying to tear around the watercolor marks somewhat, and I'm just going to add that down here. Now for the top here I'm just going to do the same thing. So I'll just sort of tear around some of those watercolor marks. Now tearing towards you will give you a white edge on the paper. Tearing away from you will give you the white edge underneath so you can't see it. So I'm just going to start my page by gluing down these two elements in opposing corners just to help frame the page. Let me get out some of my trusty 2-in-1 glue. And I'm just going to use the little brush head. Now this stuff's really sticky, so try not to drop it on your page as you're going along. Might need to turn this around. There we go, that's a bit easier. Alright, so that's the start of our page. So think of this a little bit like a composition or a picture that you're taking, and move the elements around until they are in the places that you want. So as you can see, I've got two of these that I like the positioning of, and I could leave the page there if I wanted to, because that is a beautiful color. It's framed nicely and you've got these elements that are just sort of drawing the eye in, and you could put anything else on that page that you want to, just like that. But I have to add a few extra bits and pieces because I'm me and I can't help myself. So I'm just going to look for a watercolor pan in my collection that has sort of a muted green. I think my Prima pastels might work here. Let me just do a little test. That might be a little minty. I might have to dirty that up slightly, but that's okay. I won't need much. So I'm just going to grab a little of the brown and mix it in to dirty up my green. Let me test that on a piece of scrap paper. Oh, perfect. Could probably even go a tiny bit more brown to make that a little darker. And all I do is keep testing on a piece of scrap paper until I have the colour that I want. Now, this is kind of the colour I'm going for, or something like that. I'm pretty close. I think I'm just going to add the tiniest bit of blue. And we're there. So we've come from adding brown to adding a little bit more green and adding a tiny bit of blue to get pretty much the colour that I like. Now I could have gone with either of those really, but I like the slightly greeny one. Now how am I going to use this? Simple. So I've got a little bit of colour on my brush here, and I'm just going to brush it around the edges of my little purple elements here and even onto the edge. Now, so that you don't get harsh edges, the next thing I'm going to do is take a bit of the colour off my brush and with just water go over the edges and just soften that. And that means that you won't get a harsh sort of line. You'll get a beautiful soft edge on that colour and it will just sort of blend into the background. Now I like to take my colour up and across a bit just so it doesn't sort of finish in a weird place. And then the last thing I'm going to do is add a few little speckles. Now the speckles will be darker than the watercolour, so you kind of get a 2 for 1. Now I'm also making sure, and this is why I have the paint protector, I'm also going to make sure to add a few of those little green speckles over my beautiful purple. Okay. So this just reinforces the colours that I'll be using. Now, as you can see, I didn't need very much of it. I can leave that on my pan to dry and I can use that again later. Now, I know myself well and I'm going to want a touch of sparkle on here. So I've just got little individual Finetec colours that I've bought. And for this one, I'm going to use the pale moon gold. Just add a little water. Mix it around until you've got some of that watercolour cake dissolved a bit. And I'm just going to flick a few little bits on here. And that's all that needed. Now I could go and add some of this, and I think I might, while it's on the brush. I'm just going to go and add some of this to the edge here. And this is just the edge of that paper that I've torn. And this will just pick the pattern out a little. Now if you'd wanted to make that stand out a little bit more, you could have used a darker, richer gold. But I'm okay with it just being subtle. Well, as subtle as metallic gold gets. Now, if you don't have the art supplies I'm using, you could easily just use the planner supplies that come in the kit and then use some Stabilo or some gel pens to decorate in the colours that you're using. But for me, I love adding something a little bit arty to each page because this is one of my creative outlets. Now, I don't know about you, but this combination here of green and that beautiful lavender and the little spots are making me very happy right now. I'm very happy. Wait till I show you that gold when it's dry. See how subtle this is? But when you tilt it, it's still got that gorgeous metallic shimmer. So pretty. Now we're at the layering stage, and sometimes this takes a little bit of fiddling around. What you need to consider is try and keep things proportional. So for example, I'd like to use this lavender pot down here. If I do, and try and put, for example, one of these small cups next to it, that little cup's going to be dwarfed and look a little bit strange. But if I put something like one of these books down the bottom here, they're more proportional. So it may not be realistic proportions, but at least to the eye, it's going to look a little bit more natural. Now don't forget, you can stack things on top of each other. So if I put, for example, that girl there, cool, awesome, great. But if I tack the lavender behind her, that's just an extra element adding more interest over here. All right, where am I going to put my lavender? If I put it next to my element, there's no connection. They just looked like two random things stuck on a page. So I want to put my lavender so that at least a part of it is over my background. Now this lavender, because it's got sort of wiggly lines, and so does this piece here, looks good almost anywhere. So as long as the lines sort of track and follow, you've got quite a few options with this lavender. So you can put it towards the middle, you could even put it in the middle here, sort of half peeking off, or you could put it so that it sits down at the bottom there. no matter where you put this, that lavender looks amazing. But I know that I'd like to layer one of these little books over the lavender. So I'm going to hold this with a pair of tweezers, figure out where I'd like the book, which will help me figure out where I'd like the lavender. And I think I'm going to go for there. Now I can go ahead and stick some of that book down. And when I get to the middle, I'm just going to poke that down a bit and crease it. I'll add my lavender. And then for the little bits, I'm just going to swap to the pen end of this. Not that I could get it off ever, because I'm holding the cap always. And before I stick the other side down, I'm just going to make sure that folds okay. Yep, all good. Okay, on to side 2. Now, I'm going to be really ruthless here and chop this up. That way I can have it peeking out in 2 different sections. And make it look like it's a bit longer. Perfect. Alright, so I'm going to stick that little piece down first. Now I know I covered up some of my pretty gold, but sometimes you have to make a sacrifice. Okay, now you could leave it there. Really, it is decorated enough for a basic plan, and it's just so pretty, so pretty. But because I've bought this kit, I'd like to use a few more of its elements, and I think there's a few that might work really well here. So I noticed these little baths. Not only are they completely adorable, but they've already got bubbles in the places where I could add my daily notes. So if I add this little bath, it's just a matter of positioning. So where do I want it? I'm going to aim for about in the middle here. And that gives me room at the bottom, room at the top, and a bit of extra space. Now, I don't want to add too many more elements here because it's going to start to get very busy very fast. So I'm going to add perhaps if I put this here, it's going to cover that nice little, I don't know why, but that's working for me down here. As long as I know that this is my to-do page, and I kind of do. You can tear the edges. In fact, I might do that on this, just so it fits in a bit better. Now I'm not throwing this away. I'm just going to give it a little torn edge so it's not as perfect. Oh yeah, that's making a lot more sense. Now I could even put that there if I wanted to. Do I want to? No. I think I still like it here. Yeah, I like it there. And with that torn edge, it makes the colour stand out just that little bit. Here I am talking to myself yet again. Okay, I'm liking this little candle. I feel the need to put this somewhere. Ooh, I like that. And on one of these there's a small piece of lavender somewhere. It's just going to need that. Don't be afraid to cut your stickers. If it works better as a piece, do it. Now I'm almost done with my elements on here. Even the bath, now that I look at it, looks a little in your face, but done. Alright, so I've just got one of the little words off the washi tape, and it's Pamper Makes Perfect. Good thing about washi is you can peel it off. Now I don't know if it's just the square that I'm objecting to here, so I'm just going to cut the word out. this lots of different places, and it does look better now that I've trimmed it. But I'd like to be able to write over here, and I want to connect those two images so that the bath doesn't look quite so sort of stuck in the middle of the page. So I'm going to stick this sideways so that it connects the bath and my girl. And that way when your eye runs around it, you've got this large element here. I'll have text at the top there, and then it runs down here. And I think I'm going to call my page done.